Boris loses his temper as COP26 is a death knell for fuel, COP26 President Pitiful for turnover. Boris Johnson has said it was disappointing that China and India had watered down the COP26 climate agreement, but claimed there was little difference between phasing out and phasing down coal usage. The Prime Minister declared the summit in Glasgow a historic success, rating it more than 6/10, but acknowledged his delight at this progress is tinged with disappointment. He said some countries had not been willing to go there to reach a high level of ambition at the summit, frustrating those from vulnerable island nations for whom climate change is already a matter of life and death. We can lobby, we can cajole, we can encourage, but we cannot force sovereign nations to do what they do not wish to do, he said. It's ultimately their decision to make and they must stand by it. Labour quickly accused him of overspinning the summit's achievements as he claimed there was really not much difference between the aim of getting an agreement to phase out coal and the actual text of phasing down. It doesn't seem to me as a speaker of English to make that much difference, he said. Mr. Johnson said the compromise on phasing down coal use would not make that much of a difference. It's an immense thing to get a commitment from 190 countries to phase down or phase out coal, he said. The direction of travel is pretty much the same. But Mr. Sharma said China and India would have to justify their actions. On the issue of coal, China and India are going to have to justify to some of the most climate-vulnerable countries what happened, he said. Australia committed to net zero emissions by 2050 coming into COP26, but did not agree to phase out coal or to end funding for coal projects. Speaking to Radio National this morning, Energy and Emissions Reduction Minister Angus Taylor said Australia would change its supply of fossil fuels according to international demand. As our customers change their demand, we'll change our supply with it, he said. The head of the Climate Council, Simon Bradshaw, said Australia had cemented its reputation as a climate laggard at the conference, and let down its Pacific neighbours. The government's own net zero modelling predicts Australia will still be a major coal and gas exporter in 2050, he said. Speaking to Pacific Beat on Monday morning, Tuvalu's Climate Minister Savapiniu said he was not particularly happy with the Glasgow Climate Pact and the last-minute language change to the wording of its communiqué around coal. I was lost for words, because the President had instructed the conference that there won't be any room or scope for any further proposed changes to the text, he said. So, when India and China brought up the issue to reopen the text for debate for consideration, everybody was in disbelief. Very disappointed, dismayed, disheartened that the hard work we have put in over the last 2 weeks just got changed in the last minute. He said Pacific nations were now left to up the fight against climate change. Climate Council researcher and adjunct research fellow at the Griffith Asia Institute Wesley Morgan said Australia was essentially thumbing its nose at global cooperation to tackle climate change by turning up to COP26 without more ambitious 2030 targets. So, all the other developed countries, the US, the UK, the European Union, Japan, Canada, New Zealand, South Korea, they all came to Glasgow with much stronger 2030 targets, Dr. Morgan said. And Australia went to Glasgow with the same 2030 target, an inadequate target, the same target that it took to Paris 6 years ago. Australia really needs to set a new 2030 target, and it needs to be similar to those set by Australia's friends and allies on the international stage.